Hello, Akira here, and welcome back to the channel. Thus far, all my video essays have been related to Fire Emblem gameplay, including in the meta sense. Today though, we are going to be trying something a little different, character analysis. So, since it's his birthday today, let's take a look at Alcryst from the latest game, Fire Emblem Engage, Tender Archer and Second Prince of Brodia. After all, he is the channel mascot. My profile picture is his relay stamp that I've edited to turn his frown upside down, which I chose as I found the original funny. Still, after using him in some of my own Engage playthroughs and seeing his various supports, I have grown genuinely fond of him. The nature of this video means that it will contain some plot spoilers for Fire Emblem Engage, as well as some support spoilers for Bernadetta from Three Houses. Additionally, I will not be discussing gameplay. As a result, I completely understand if you want to give this video a miss. Regardless, let's get started. Alcryst is an archer in a personal Lord class, who Alir first encounters in Chapter 7, Dark Emblem, as they cross the border from Firene into Brodia. He leaves an interesting first impression. After having been dispatched alongside his retainers by his father to receive Alir and Alfred, and formally welcome them to the kingdom, and encountering a host of strange creatures and bandits during the wait, he is initially hostile towards the party. Then, upon discovering Alir's identity, he jumps, kneels, and begs for forgiveness. It's this part that tends to stick with people the most. This constant apologising and self-depreciating tendency is only further reinforced by some of his supports. The prime example of this is his siege support with Alir, during which he does the following: bows and begs to a wolf, says that his life is worth less than that of the Divine Dragon, apologises and further puts himself down when Alir says everyone's life has the same worth, and runs away. It's not a flattering showing. Due to the fact that Engage doesn't limit the number of supports other than the S or ring support, encountering these kinds of C supports hammers in further how fearful and apologetic he is, even when he hasn't done anything wrong. This is a potentially very annoying habit to some people in real life, as it often has to be responded to with reassurance, and also can minimise the meaning of apologies for occasions where it's actually warranted. It's a bit reminiscent of Bernadetta from the direct predecessor, Three Houses, which is another game with an unlimited number of concurrent supports. Also canonically an archer, she is incredibly fearful and anxious, in her case due to having been punished harshly by her father growing up, who we learn in her B support with Byleth that in his attempts to train her as a good wife, he would subject her to what she calls constant torment, doing things such as tie her to a chair and incessantly call her useless. Of course, lasting psychological trauma can be the result of emotional and physical abuse, especially in combination with each other and over a long period of time. Still, people have understandably taken issue with this depiction of mental health issues in Fire Emblem. So given that Three Houses is the game right before Engage, in addition to the generally lesser characterization in Engage supports compared to that game, it is also understandable that people would be skeptical that Alcryst is just another anxious archer following in her footsteps. To understand Alcryst, we first need to talk about his upbringing and family relationships. To an extent, there are some personality and history similarities between the two. Through some of his supports, such as his B supports with both Bouchon and Fagado, we learn that the cause of this self-devaluation is primarily attributed as being external, in the form of having been compared to Diamant unfavourably growing up. Upon being asked by Fagado about his upbringing in their B support, he recounts:
I was born the second prince of Brodia, with a significant age gap between my brother and me, as far back as I can remember. People have praised my older brother for his skills. One could not ask for a better successor to the Brodian throne, they would say. But when it came to me, the thing I heard most often was, Diamant would have done better.
While younger siblings being compared to their older siblings is already a common experience, as Alcryst says, this age gap is indeed significant. While the game's internal ages aren't exactly reliable, Zephyr is listed as internal age 35. Alcryst is coded as 17 and Diamant as 25. A nearly decade-large age gap inevitably leads to a huge difference in both physical and mental performance. Unsurprisingly, both these comments and actually interacting with this much older brother of his leads to Alcryst putting Diamant on a pedestal. This is shown as he notes in his C support of his brother that,
yes, I am a Brodian prince, but I'm not the Brodian prince. I'm not you, Diamant.
He also remarks at the end of their B support upon learning that Diamant is afraid of mages that,
he's afraid of something. My brother has a weakness. I can't believe it.
Additionally, it's implied that Diamant intentionally tries to hide his weaknesses from other people, telling Alcryst that he
must not speak of this to anyone.
This mirrors the sense of responsibility that many elder siblings feel to appear put together in front of their younger siblings. Part of this is a natural tendency to not want to be shown up by a younger blood relation, shown when Diamant says in their A support that
I'm not going to let my baby brother win. If you want to beat me, you have to beat me.
Diamant has the additional context of being the Crown Prince proper, and thus already having high expectations placed upon him to live up to. However, unlike Bernadette with her father, and to an extent, her mother, who basically had her kidnapped to join the Officers' Academy, Alcryst and his family members seem to have a good relationship. For example, in Chapter 8, The Kingdom of Might, his father, King Morion, seems to be very attuned to his actions, coming out of the castle, which Diamant strongly encourages against him doing, saying he
had this feeling my boy Alcryst might be home. Seems my fatherly intuition was right, as usual.
and calling Alcryst his
dear boy.
Additionally, when Alir converses semi-privately with Alfred about how Morion is much more friendly than they were expecting, the latter says of Morion that he's a
friend and family man. He's known to be a big-hearted guy.
Similarly, Diamant is shown to have a positive relationship with his brother, saying to him in their A support that
I'm lucky to have you as a brother too, Alcryst.
Interestingly, he seems to be unaware of how people apparently outside of the direct family have made these unfavourable comparisons between the two of them, telling Alcryst earlier on in their support line that thinking of himself as not the Brodian prince is
an awful way to think about it.
This is further shown by how he asks,
is that how you talk when I'm not around? Implying
that he himself is unaware of the pressure, whether direct or indirect, that he exerts upon his brother. The exact people who made these comparisons in Alcryst's early years are never explicitly identified, and thus further speculation is neither canon nor interesting. However, what is interesting, in my opinion, is that this poor self-image is attributed to another of Alcryst's personality traits, which is Alcryst's kindness towards other people. This is most strikingly pointed out by Fagado in their B support, where Fagado says of people's compliments for Diamant at Alcryst's expense.
Instead of holding a grudge against him, you just accepted that you were inferior. You know what you are? A kind person.
Additionally, Alcryst expressly dismisses the idea of ever snapping back in retaliation to these comments being made, saying he would
never allow a thought like that to cross my mind.
Alcryst's kindness and prioritization of other people as a defining characteristic is expanded upon and shown in many of his other support lines, with a few examples being telling Saline in their C support when she is unable to sleep due to having had a nightmare about her brother dying that
I'm free to talk whenever you need a sympathetic ear.
Sphere saying in their B support that
I noticed you get most excited when you've got someone else in mind.
And Citrine saying in their C support that
that's the same Alcryst I knew as a child, placing others well ahead of himself.
Said kindness leads to a strong sense of responsibility for other people. This is very obviously present in one of his crit quotes.
I will protect everyone!
As is the case for the royals, apart from the illusion ones, he has a shared crit quote for his retainers, the crit quote in question being this one.
I will protect everyone!
This highlights the importance that he assigns to this task of protecting others, in a way that is not the case with the other royals. Alfred's,
scatter like petals!
Saline's,
it's tea time!
His brothers,
nothing short of victory!
Tamara's,
let's have some fun!
And Fagado's,
time to party!
While all strong crit quotes not as clearly show this care for their respective countries' populaces or aliases as a whole. This consideration for others is clearly a source of inspiration for self-improvement for him, such as him wanting to learn to fish and cook from Saphir to welcome his mother back to Brodia Castle once the war is over. More notably though, it is a source of strength for him when it matters, which is most notable during the boss conversation he has with his corrupted father during Chapter 10, The Fell Dragon Sombron.
Father, if you have to die, let it be by my hand. This would be an unbearable burden for Diamant. So I must do this, Father! If some part of you is still in there, just thank you for everything. I love you. I always will.
Here, Alcryst says that killing Morion himself is for the sake of Diamant, saying that Diamant having to kill their father would be an unbearable burden for him. This is interesting to me, as while a deeper exploration of Diamant's character is beyond the scope of the video, it creates a sense of contrast between the two brothers. Alcryst is depicted as someone who struggles in the spotlight, but pulls it together when the need arises, whereas Diamant is implied to be very competent when performing an outward-facing role, but perhaps struggles more during times of personal crisis. This sense of wanting to protect people even carries across to an extent to his fellow Xenologue counterpart. I note this as, for the most part, the obvious exception being vegan, music-hating Temera, the alternate royals can be viewed as potential outcomes of the royals proper in a world where the divine dragons die out and their retainers die. For Alcryst, this manifests as having a far more aggressive attitude towards his brother in the Fell World, who is himself more cowardly and unsure about how to protect Brodia. Because of this, Alcryst is very critical towards Diamant and proud to the point of arrogance, outwardly vying to become king of Brodia himself. Despite this prickly exterior, Alcryst's buried kindness is clear in his battle interaction with Lapis, where he says,
You must have appeared because you hate me, for saying I would protect you when I couldn't.
Like Alcryst proper, Alcryst also said that he would protect his world's version of Lapis. Still, the parallels between Alcryst and Alcryst are more blatant in his heartbreaking interaction with Citrine, which I will play in its entirety now.
Citrine? It hurts to see you now, knowing I failed to keep you safe. Everyone in your noble house died too. They were like family. Each death.
I half expected it, but here we are. I feel such sorrow every time you look at me that way.
No matter your wealth, life itself remains irreplaceable. The cause of so much suffering. I should have died that day. I wanted you to live. I wanted everyone to live.
The Alcryst of this world looks so confident. Yet at heart, you're just like the one I know. I'm sure you did your best. As painful as it was, I'm glad that I was the one to go first.
As Citrine says, Alcryst is still kind and feels incompetent, yet as a result of the losses taken during the war with this world Sombron, he has become determined to hide his weakness with a more confident and cruel facade. This sense of kindness, being remarked on in many of his support lines and other contexts, cements it as being one of his core personality traits. As a result, compared to Bernadetta's self-esteem issues, Alcryst displays much more balanced sources of self-image problems. The continuously reinforced negative comparisons from a young age are bad, and his inherent kindness leading to him internalizing those feelings rather than becoming outwardly disruptive is a quote-unquote good thing. Note quote-unquote good. Kindness does not prevent one from hurting someone they care about, especially when it involves devaluing oneself in the process. Alcryst's support explore this, doing so most aptly in his Lapis support, which revolves around Lapis being very concerned that her liege vows to protect her in battle at the expense of his own safety. In their C support, Lapis notes that,
This is the third time you vowed to protect me like this, Prince Alcryst.
Alcryst actually explains his reasoning for this in his B support with her.
I really do think that you're an amazing person, Lapis.
That's not... I'm really not that amazing.
You are. I know that you are. I know that you always send part of your pay back home to support your family. I also know you spend your free time subduing dangerous beasts that enter the area.
How did you find out about...
You're so much more valuable to this world than I am, Lapis. That's why
That's why you keep saying that you should be protecting me. Oh, Prince Alcryst. You have no idea. It breaks my heart to hear you talk like this.
Alcryst's kindness is clearly highlighted in this interaction, as Lapis is shocked that he's noticed her action to support her family, and, actual unit strength discussions aside, subduing threats in the local area. Still, the ease with which he says he will eschew his own personal safety for hers is also somewhat callous. Callous's definition, including cruel disregard for others, may make it seem like a strong word, given that its source is caring for another person, but I would argue that he is being extremely cruel. Lapis explicitly states this logic hurts her. This is summed up nicely in what she says in their A support.
You throw your life away to keep others safe, even the retainers who protect you. Do you really think that's supposed to make me happy?
Probably because of his glaring personality flaws of being deeply insecure and kind to the point of self-negligence. In addition to his sheltered upbringing as royal, he experiences personality growth in his supports. This is more so than is the case for a lot of the rest of the engaged cast. From least to most detail, his support line with Pandreo sees Alcryst discover that despite his introversion, he does in fact enjoy partying. Similarly, he broadened his worldview through his interest in Seedol's stories about the caravan lifestyle. Both of these support lines show that underneath his nervous tendencies, Alcryst does have a sense of adventure, and is able to expand his social and world horizons with a bit of patience from other characters. This expansion of worldview takes place most markedly in his interactions and support line with Ivy, who he is initially shown to distrust and resent for playing a role in the death of his father. In the post-Chapter 11 cutscene, where he says,
"If not for her, we might have made it in time. We might have saved him."
This is continued in their support line, where in their C support, he asks,
"I still refuse to forgive you. You know why. How else should I behave in the presence of someone who helped to murder my father?"
Upon her apology, he is very fast to try and
promise to do my best to find that common ground you mentioned.
Now that they are allies, he is able to overcome his anti-illusion prejudice and personally promise in their A support that he'll do his best to ensure that Brodia and Illusia remain allies after the end of the war, despite stating in that same conversation that
the relationship between Brodia and Illusia has never been civil. Certainly not in my lifetime.
This is a testament to his character. Taking conscious steps to move past deeply ingrained, long-held discriminatory views can be quite difficult for people to do in real life, to say the least. While this part isn't necessarily character growth per se, rather than simply identifying his personality underneath the nervousness, it is also worth noting that Ivy comes to recognise his core traits herself, saying,
"My first impression of you was that you were weak-willed and uncharismatic. I feel differently now. When it matters, you speak your mind. And what you say is kind and thoughtful. These are qualities I consider princely."
This is basically the perfect summation of how Alcryst is perceived with increased familiarity, that being, first cool-ish, then upon interacting with him for more than 5 minutes, that he's kind of pathetic, then back to being a cool person. Returning to Lapis though, the most important facet of his character development is how he comes to value himself, insofar at least as a person valued by the people he himself cares about. This is, unsurprisingly, the culmination of their A support, in which the two agree to form an alliance of protection, which Alcryst explains to mean,
"It means I will vow to protect you, and accept your protection of me. And you'll do the same. That way, we both protect someone we care for and accept that we are cared for in return."
Significantly, Lapis says when accepting this that,
"You finally sound like the kind prince that you are."
This reflects how being kind to the people you care about at the expense of yourself is not necessarily being kind to them. While, of course, people ultimately shouldn't place the opinions and judgments of others above their own self-image, and mental health and self-image struggles are very real, this constant depreciation can be viewed as inconsiderate, or even insulting to the care that others show for you. In conclusion, Alcryst is a neat little character study in how a person can come across as more pathetic once crossing the line from stranger to acquaintance, and then loop back around to being a strong and well-spoken person with close friends, or when it actually matters. He is also a more balanced showing than previous Fire Emblem characters of how a person's inherent nature combined with external events can result in a very anxious or otherwise troubled disposition. The most interesting part of his character though, in my opinion, is how he is an example of how a person can derive a healthier self-image from their relationships with other people. People often say that before you can fully love anyone else, you have to love yourself. Now, it is good to actually have an independent sense of self-worth that isn't predicated on the opinions of others, but deriving self-worth from valuing the people who care about you is not a bad thing in and of itself. Of course, this is provided that there is clear communication and a healthy, caring relationship between the involved parties, which I believe is the case for Alcryst and Lapis. Anyway, that's been 3,500 words on Alcryst. This was only intended to be a short, relatively low-effort thing, so I was surprised at how into it I got. When I started this script, I was fond of him, sure, but now I would say that I actually like him quite a lot. Also, I'd have to say that at least some of the engaged units are actually good characters. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I do have a couple more ideas for character analysis videos, so I would love to know whether you like this one, whether it be through liking or commenting on the video, or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. We also have a small Discord server in the description of this video that you can join if you're interested in keeping up to date with what I'm working on, or talking about Fire Emblem more generally. Similarly, I'd also like to know if this kind of video isn't for you. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Until then, have a good one.